Podcast. I'm your host, Claudia Castro. I got my co-host Tim Park sipping from the Get the Bag mug. I left
You
mine at
know
work.
it. It's all good. Hey, we got
Got a
the
rep.
swag
You even got
going.
the purple on.
Hey,
I
got to rep
represent.
the
Yeah,
brand.
look out for some merch in the coming future for sure.
Love it.
But we have a really exciting show for you guys today. Really excited for our guests that we have on. But before we get into that, as always, don't forget to subscribe, like us, follow us on all our social channels that we have provided below. We're on here every week, adding value, spreading knowledge. So make sure you show some love. But without further ado, today's guest, I think he kind of showed up in my radar, the Close Your Olympics maybe a couple years ago. So once you guys see him on, you'll probably he'll probably be familiar. People will probably be familiar with his story. But he began as a news reporter in Ohio and transitioned into real estate investment. Um, after being in that career, which is always really hard, right? To kind of make that decision to leave your job and operate full time as an entrepreneur. Well, he's been doing that since 2021. And so to date, since then, he's successfully acquired 35 rental properties and is has a trajectory of acquiring 132 properties by the end of this year, which is pretty dope.
Yeah, I love
Can't
it.
wait to kind of see where you kind of reinvent yourself in that aspect, from news reporter to wholesaler to investor. So let's bring on our friend Noah to the Get the Bag podcast. What's going on, Noah?
What's up, Noah? Oh, you're on mute.
There we go. There we go. What's
There you
going on,
go.
everybody? Appreciate you all for having me on, and yeah, I'm excited to get to it and talk about it.
I love it. Yeah, you have a kind of unique story. I mean, a lot of people um in some aspects, like, they've done different types of careers and
Hmm.
they try to like reinvent themselves. But tell us about kind of your background, like what kind of got you into becoming a reporter? Was that kind of before you got into real estate? Was that sort of like your
Yeah,
dream job, so to speak?
yeah, it was. So actually, in high school, I did. Um, it was we basically had like a newscast, and like to be on the newscast, like everybody wanted to be on the newscast and have that class.
Mm.
So like I ended up getting into it my sophomore year, and then became one of the better students in them in those classes and anchoring and stuff like that. So it was always second to me playing football. So when I went to college, played football in college, I was still doing that uh, throughout that time, and doing like news reports and everything like that, even while I was still playing football. So coming out of college, like my junior, this is like my junior senior season of college. I ended up stopped playing football, and I was just going, just going to school, going hard at being a news reporter. So I ended up actually being one of the top news reporters in the nation coming out of college.
That's
So
what's up.
Wow.
yeah, so and I got a lot of fellowships and things like that. Got invited and selected to different fellowships for news reporting. So like it's a competitive, very very competitive field, and that's really why I got into it. I like talking to people, which you do in real estate. I like talking to people, like understanding people's stories, telling people's stories, and really telling the stories of the unheard, right? The people who are unheard or forgotten about, or you don't think about as much on your everyday to day life. So I love doing that. I love telling stories. And again, that's stuff you do in real estate, telling stories.
Exactly.
Exactly.
But yeah, so that's where it started. And then I got it was a funny story. It was again my senior year. We had finals that week. My fraternity brothers were up here, and my wife now, but at the time we were just talking. She paid for half my plane ticket to come up here. I told my teachers, I was like, hey, I got an interview at this news station. Can I come? I was just coming up here just for just to have fun. But I was
Right.
like, I got an interview at a news station. can I go? They were like, yeah, go ahead, take the interview. What I did was I just scheduled a walkthrough so then I could take pictures as if I was there for an interview.
Oh wow.
It ended up actually being an interview. They actually interviewed me, and then I ended up getting by the grace of God, got the job that day. So like,
Wow.
what?
That's crazy.
I know. So
You manifested that.
no, for
I
real,
know, right?
for real. So I got that, and then after that, I moved up here. I think that was like a month or two before graduation, so I didn't even have a plan after graduation. I was still looking for a news station, and then got that one and came up here to Youngstown, Ohio. Now we're in Cleveland, but first moved up to Youngstown, Ohio.
Wow. How
That's
long were you a
cool.
reporter until you got into real estate?
I was a reporter for a year and a half, and what happened? I say rightfully fired because it was God's plan, but wrongfully fired because they weren't supposed to fire me. Legally, anyways, they weren't supposed to fire me. And long story short, the news director and I got into it, called me a bunch of names, sent it over to HR. HR was like, okay, we won't tell them. HR told them, of course.
Wow.
Yeah. So then that created conflict, and he was just ready to get me up out of there. So, which was great for me. So ended up losing my job. My wife now, but she was my girlfriend at the time, she was working 2 jobs just to stay afloat. I was trying to find different jobs, and I was driving back home from North Carolina. We went down there for a visit, came back, and I heard Mark Whitten on the Breakfast Club talking about wholesaling. So I was like, because I wanted to get into real estate, but I couldn't. I didn't have the cash, obviously, because I just got fired, and I didn't have the credit because I slacked on getting the student loans together, and it killed my credit. Boom. So I didn't have either until I heard about wholesaling. So I was like, all right, wait a minute. Let me see what's up with wholesaling. So that's where it like started to pique my interest. But when I was calling around for lawyers, when they wrongfully terminated me, I ended up getting a brokerage. They were like, I accidentally called them. They said, oh, well, we're not a law firm, we're just a brokerage. But if you want to do real estate, you can come on, because they remember me from the news. And I was like, all right, okay, I'll try it. I went there again. That to be a real estate agent, I don't know what it is now, but back then it was like $3,000-$4,000. I don't need to do it. So I wasn't able to be a real estate agent. And then that's why I was like, you know what? Let me try this wholesaling thing. But I was in that time though, I ended up being a teacher, teaching journalism at a high school during that time. And they had us go back to grad school, and they were paying for it. And we got the refund check, and I got a refund check for like $6,000. I was like, oh yeah, I'm about to buy me a house. I'm about to buy me a house right now. I got it. But and not knowing anything. So now, like, yes, that $6,000 technically I could have bought a house. But back the way I was thinking, no, you have bought a house with $6,000.
That's crazy.
But yeah, so that's how I got into it. And while I was teaching, I was still wholesaling that whole time. My students, it was funny because my students knew that I was doing it. So like whenever I had a call from a seller, I'd be like, in the middle of the lecture, hold on real quick, y'all. Hey, if anybody comes in here, make sure that y'all look like y'all doing work. And I just step out to the side.
Dang.
I love it. That's dope.
Yo, you had the kids like that?
Yeah.
I know, right? Hold up. I'm going to take this call.
Right. They were cool. So if the principals walked in, they would just look like they were doing some work. And I was just
okay.
A quick phone call or an important phone call real quick, which was fun.
That's funny.
That's pretty dope. Like,
yeah.
That's a cool story.
You don't really hear that quite often where you're like, especially kids, I don't know what age group they were, but like to be like, hey, hold up, I'll be right back.
Yeah, they were juniors and seniors.
Okay. So they're like, all right, teach, like, get your hustle on.
Yep. because they knew I wasn't going to be there for long.
Right.
I wasn't. So, and they were I was teaching them, the game as well. And they were soaking up as much as they could while I was there.
I love that.
Yeah. That's side note, but that's just one of my passions. I love to help because I never got that help. So
I think we're the same way. Like we try to, especially help the younger generation understand about real estate and how they can get into it, and just try to educate as much as we can.
For sure.
Talking about your wholesaling, what was your experience in wholesaling, and then when did you transition to actually acquiring properties?
My experience in wholesale, it changed my life. Like wholesaling changed my life completely. From the way I look at money, the way I think about money, the way I look at business, my love for business and building businesses, and building multiple businesses. It completely changed me for the better, and it made me a better person too, because in order to build a business, you have to be a leader. And in order to be a leader, you have to be your best self. If you can't be yourself at 120% of the time, right, and you aren't continually growing, then your business is going to stay stagnant. You're always in your employees are going to stay stagnant. Your team members are going to stay stagnant. So it transformed me for a person that barely read. Like I didn't really like to read. Now I love to read, right? Much information and reading. I like to talk about myself or learn about myself, but I didn't love to learn about myself. In that with wholesaling, it was more mental than actual physical to me. And it was a lot more challenging because I had to, although I was doing it in news and talking to people, so I had the aspect of caring for somebody, because one of the toughest news stories that I ever did was it actually made national news, but she lost 5 of her children in a fire. Unexpected.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I was the first person to ever talk to her about it. Actually talk to her, and taking her back through that tragedy was tough. But I had to tell her story and allow everybody to understand. And number 2, do it with compassion, right? And when you're talking with the seller, you have to have that compassion. You have to have that understanding. Yes, get the job done, but it's still a human being on the other side of that phone. Or if you're face to face, it's still another human being. So, I really fell in love with the journey of wholesaling, acquisitions, because again, I love to talk to people. I love to tell their story, but I also love the technicalities of it. And Gladiator, that's why, I think you saw us as well on Closer Olympics, right? I do love the technicality of what I'm doing and acquisitions, but it's just like you're having a conversation, like you're talking to your
yeah, exactly.
So the wholesaling route, I love it. I loved it in building the business, because at the peak we were doing anywhere between 90 to 100K a month, usually around there. And it was good. It was great. But where I started to transition, one, with the title company. So I'm on my own title company, Ohio Fast Title. I did that because I have a bad habit of, when people don't do things right, I'm like, you know what? Move over. Let me do it.
Yeah. Right. Understandable. Yeah.
So that's why I started in that. But even during wholesaling, I was still acquiring properties, because what I didn't do, and I'll be a man enough to say, I did not correct the things. Yes, I had the money, but I still didn't have the credit. So in order to get the house, you can have no money, but you can have some credit and you can get a house relatively easily.
Right.
You have money, but no credit. Now it's you got to pay 50, 100, or at least here it's $50,000, $100,000 for these houses, or 30,000 houses. You got to have that cash up front and still do rehab.
Right.
In that time, I was like, all right, well, I still can't get any houses I sold, which means I still have to wholesale. So what I learned about was subject to creative finance. And that's where I ended up getting $1 million portfolio for $0 down.
That's dope.
Wow.
Yeah.
And were most of the market that you were wholesaling, was it in Ohio or various other markets?
Nope, just in Ohio, Cleveland, Akron, all the way in between, all Northeast Ohio. That's when we were wholesaling.
No, that's amazing. And I think for any of the listeners too, I think you said something key, which is like, hey, I'm just having a conversation. I'm just here to help or solve problems. That's really all our job is. I think people that get into wholesaling, like I think they overcomplicate it, like many other things that you get started, right? It's like, oh, it's that call. And yes, they're not all going to be peaches and cream. Like you're going to get your FUs and whatnot. That's just part of the game. But for the most part, once you get someone on that has an issue, it's just a conversation of being like, how creative can I get in solving your problem? And I'm sure with you, like storytelling, that's enough for you. I'm sure you built rapport like super easily that got enough for the sellers to trust you with, selling their home or buying their home, I should say. And so I think that's really key for those listening, is like, you're just having a conversation. Like the technicalities will come, but just focus on what their problem is and listen. I think that's sometimes the biggest problem there. But in terms of your wholesale operations, are you still working that right now? Or I'm assuming like maybe because you're still acquiring, it's just a now kind of an exit strategy where you're like, okay, I'm looking to acquire, but any ones that don't fit in our portfolio, we're dishing them out.
Yeah, for sure. So not more so wholesaling as much. And I wanted to touch on one thing before we get there too, that you were talking about, just having that conversation and listening to people. One thing that I learned in news was that, and it really helped. If you ask somebody a question, ask them and be silent. Be comfortable in that silence. Like that silence.
The awkward silence.
The awkward silence. Because you know why you're in that awkward silence, but the seller doesn't, or the person on the other side of the phone doesn't. So if you sit there, they're going to say, the first thing they're going to say is what they think you want to hear. The second thing is going to be a mix of how they really feel and like what they think you want to hear. The third thing that they say, that's really what they feel. So if you just sit there and just, then they're going to say something else because they don't like that awkward silence. Nobody inherently likes that awkward silence. So that's what I learned.
That's a bar.
Yeah, it's a bar for sure.
So I just wanted to point that out from what you were saying.
Yes, that's key.
But now for the most part, really it's more so been the title company and acquiring apartment buildings. I'm still talking to sellers. I'm still negotiating deals, but it's just more so apartment buildings instead of single family houses and wholesaling those single family houses. Nothing against it at all, but it's just, for me, it's a lot on my plate to still have a wholesale business.
Operations.
Yeah, exactly. And when I say business, it's like there's wholesaling and then there's a wholesale business. It's two different things, right?
That's a good point.
And it's a lot that goes into a wholesale business. I can wholesale houses, and I'm always going to wholesale houses, but having a wholesale business, that's where it's like you got to really figure out and juggle which one's more important or what you want to do. It's just unfortunately not enough time in the day. But still marketing, and instead of single family houses, marketing to apartment buildings, multifamily houses, marketing to those type of sellers. And a lot of those sellers are on, or at least apartment buildings are on the MLS. So it's more, talking about realtor, figuring out stuff, and even getting creative, which there's two that we're supposed to be closing on this Wednesday. We had to get creative. We even did seller finance with those, even with a realtor. So we're still bringing no money down to the table.
Right.
That's crazy.
So, but if I didn't wholesale, I would have never had that.
The knowledge of that.
Yeah.
At all.
I feel like on the commercial, at least on a commercial, like if you go 5 or more units, then brokers kind of understand the seller finance. But like if you are 4 or more and you get a regular agent, you have to educate them a little bit because they don't know how they're going to get paid on that seller finance. Is that correct?
Yep. 120%. And even still, I say with the broker that we talked to, she knew a little bit about it, but she didn't really understand it too much. And we had to literally, I had to send like a long text just to really have it break down. One for my realtor, so he could also explain it to her. So that's kind of like the drawbacks of when you are doing bigger unit apartments and they are with a broker. You have to talk to your realtor and hope that he or she can convey it enough to their realtor and hope that he or she can convey it enough to the seller.
Just literally playing telephone, I feel like.
Exactly. Exactly. That's why I'm just like, hey, just shoot this text. You don't even have to say anything. Just shoot them this text.
Right.
Do that verbatim. But yeah, no, they understand it better, but I don't know if they understand it truly like we do.
Right.
There's probably a few that do that are probably investors themselves, because we know we've worked with plenty who practice, being an agent, but they also buy some. They kind of also cherry pick whichever deals come across their table, and hey, instead of selling this off, I'll take it off for myself.
Yep. And as they should. So, but yeah, no, it's an amazing journey. Or I don't really want to say was, because wholesale is like my baby.
Right? I mean, it's I always say wholesaling is a foundation.
Yeah, 100%.
And you can take that foundational knowledge and apply anywhere. So whether you're practicing wholesaling or, running a wholesale business, like you said, you're still taking that foundational knowledge of marketing, speaking to sellers, realtors, investors, and just flipping it to whatever channel, you decide to focus on. But like, I always say that too. I'm like, you don't have to be wholesaling your, the rest of your, I don't want to say the rest of your life, but for the time being, but the knowledge itself is enough that you can take that and apply anywhere.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you helped me to come it a little bit.
I got you. That is we're turning it around. We're here.
Right. There you go. Right.
I got you. But one thing I did want to go back, because a lot of the people of our audience are either aspiring to get into wholesaling because maybe they were in your situation. They don't have credit. They don't have much money to start off with. So obviously wholesaling is a great solution with that, especially if you can partner up with maybe an experienced wholesaler. You said you were making around 90 to 100K. Like maybe briefly, we don't have to touch up on it too long, but like, how was your team structured? Because I'm assuming then it was like a wholesaling business, right? Like maybe you had VAs and all that stuff.
Yeah. So we had VAs who were doing cold calling. We didn't do text. Because text was okay, but it was so many rules, and especially now
it's a pain. It's crazy.
Yeah. So
it's gotten bad.
Yeah. So we were just doing strictly cold calling. And what do we have to do? Each VA, and these are just KPIs. That's a major thing. If you don't have KPIs, you don't have a business. So or a predictable business. Right. You have to have KPIs. So with our callers, they were doing they had to do anywhere between $600 to $700 a day. The VAs had to do $600, $700 a day. That would bring in anywhere between 3 to 5 good leads to the lead manager. So from
per VA.
Per VA, yes, I'm sorry. Yep. So the lead manager, then he would then qualify it even more and take it a step further. His job or her job was really to see their why, not more so like the price. Like, yes, we know the price, but we really want to know like their why, and like to be that emotional support system for them in a sense, right? And then after that, then they would go on to the acquisition manager. They had to dial anywhere. They had to dial 50 dials a day, and what we did the 3-2-1 method. So we call 3 times in the morning, twice at night, or twice in the afternoon, once at nighttime, right? 3 times in the morning. Why? Because most of the time, you're in the morning, you're rushing, you might not hear the first one. You might hear the second one, you're like, all right, never mind. And you might see the third one, and it's like, all right, cool, I'm gonna pick it up. 2 in the afternoon, because, you see the phone, then somebody calls you again, you're probably gonna answer. Then you leave a voicemail too. Hey, it's Noah, just wanted to give you a call real quick. Give me a call when you can. Talk to you soon. Boom. Don't even tell them what it's about. Then at the 1 in the afternoon, hey, it's getting late. I know you were probably busy today, but I'll just give you a call tomorrow morning. Boom. So you're setting it up for that next day, right? And those was 3, 4, 5. Those 3, 4, 6. Yeah. So those 6 dials only counts as one call. So yeah. So they had to do 50 of those. But we also had scorecards for quality conversations. So if you're on the phone for an hour, of course, you're not going to hit the 50, but at least I know why you didn't hit the 50, because you have 4 to 5 quality conversations, and we'll take quality over quantity any day.
Right.
So they had to do 50, and we had their scorecard. We had the lead manager scorecard. We had the even the VA scorecard. So everybody had a scorecard, so that way we saw what happened. As far as dispositions, what we did, we had VAs. They were calling buyers pretty much nonstop all day, getting their criteria, and they would put it in our in Podio. Then from Podio, we know, hey, this buyer likes 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, whatever it may be. And we had that side set up. And a lot of times, like, we would even list it on the MLS. So we would do a broker listed on the MLS. So like Dispo was not as I wouldn't say not as strenuous, but not as many steps as the acquisitions. Didn't have as many steps. But even with acquisitions, morning meetings, we'd have acquisitions, dispositions in the meeting. Acquisitions, we go over the scorecard each and every morning, talk about questions that they have. Morning meetings, maybe like 15, 20 minutes. Go over scorecards, why they didn't hit their scorecards, why they did hit their scorecards. Congratulations, or, let's talk about it. We talk about it as a group. Any questions, we go over review calls and everything like that. But we had a dedicated group of acquisition managers, lead managers, because even after the shift, they were like, hey, Noah, can we listen to this call? Can you dissect this call? And like, we'd be
that was good.
Hours, like an hour or 2 after work hours, quote unquote,
right,
working and getting better. So it was really more so culture and what you instill in them, right? That's why the leadership part, I had to become a better person in order to become a better leader for them. So if I was cutting corners on anything, right? If I was cutting corners on their pay, if I was cutting corners on showing up on time, right? Yeah, I can show up late. It's my business. I can. But what does that say to everybody else? That they can show up late too, because no one shows up late. So it's like those little things. That's really how to dial in, and you really just want to build and breed your company culture. Like, even I was reading Urban Meyer's book, and in the office we had a red tape. So you cross that red tape, all the BS that happened the day before, whatever's going on, you leave that behind that red tape. All that baggage, you take it off, boom, you leave it there. And once you cross that red line, we're here to get to it, right? Understand things do happen, but we're here to get to it. As soon as you leave, if you want to pick up that baggage, boom, pick it back up. Once you uncross that red tape, pick it back up. And it was literally right at the door. So like you couldn't get anywhere without crossing that red tape. It's just like little things like that. Or even when they log in to their stuff, I say the password is, we are the top 1%. So like
that's cool.
They're typing that in. They have to know that. So whether they want to, say it every single day before our in our morning affirmations, or they don't, it doesn't matter. You're gonna type it and you're gonna say it inside your head, because you have to do with all the passwords. So
yeah,
I love that.
That's dope.
I think that's what takes you from just being we always say this, right? A side hustle to an actual business, running it as a business owner, not a side hustle. And I think that's what probably prevents people from moving up, is they don't know how to get out of that hustle kind of culture. That's why there's high turnover. So by you investing in your team, although you're not, you don't have a team like that anymore, like, in wholesaling, but by investing in the team, by you being committed to them, that it comes back in return. So I think that for a lot of people listening too, that wanting into wholesaling, run a whole wholesaling business, you have to put in a lot, and because it's not, you don't have a boss to tell you what to do. Like, you're that person. Like, you have to, and it starts with holding you accountable. So how, like you said, how is somebody else supposed to show up on time if I'm not showing up on time? So you really do have to become a better version of yourself as a business owner.
Yep. And in every aspect too.
Yeah.
And anybody knows me, I'm always transparent and honest. And I say that I did that not to say that I didn't have anybody leave and everybody came and stayed. I'm not saying that at all, right?
Yeah, right. That's just business, right there.
It's not meant for everybody. Yeah. People are meant to come and go.
Exactly. So, but still, doing those things, that's it is going to set you up for success as long as when you do find that right person. It's not if, it's when.
Sounds like a marriage. I don't know.
Yeah. No, for real. It is. And it gets tiring too, like, especially when you put your all in somebody and then they leave and you're just like, I gotta do it all over again. Yeah, you do. Welcome to business.
Well, those are a lot of gems in there. You kind of dropped a lot right there, so that's great. I love it. On going back to now for apartments, like so are most of your deals on apartments when you acquire, are they seller finance, or how are you like acquiring a lot of these, or your first ones were maybe seller finance? So kind of walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah. So the first one, it was a portfolio. It was 15 houses. It was a portfolio. Got it again through wholesaling. The lady said, "Hey, I don't want to deal with my mortgage anymore. I don't want to have it anymore." Automatically, a light went off my head.
Right.
Okay, you don't.
Bingo.
Yeah, you don't want to deal with the mortgage. Okay, got you. And then she just said she doesn't want anything from it. She just wants the mortgage gone. I said, okay, well, what if there's a way we could take over your mortgage? And she said, I mean, I'd be fine with that. That'd be perfect. So, and again, it's like I always say, what if? I never say, hey, we can take over your mortgage. It's a what if, giving them, selling the sizzle, not the steak. Right.
Got it.
And when I say that, because somebody said that to me, and I was like, how do you sell a sizzle and not the steak? That doesn't even make sense. What are you talking about? But it's like, again, that what if, like, it sounds good, right? That sizzle when it's coming out, that sounds amazing. Like, ooh, what is that? So, hey, yeah, I'd be open to that if you could do it. Okay. And then that's when I got into, well, if we could, we could take over your mortgage for you. We could take over those payments for you. You don't have to worry about anything anymore. Your name would still be on the loan, but we would take care of everything for you and get everything together. Does that sound like something you would want to do? And like just question it like that. She was like, yeah, I'd love to do it. So we went back and forth on terms, and we went back and forth on and when I say as far as terms, it's just she just pretty much wanted reassurance that this was gonna actually happen. She had a bad partnership before another business. She was afraid. She was just nervous. That's all. Which understandably so. I mean, it was $1 million portfolio that she was just giving away for essentially nothing, right? And she wanted to make sure that everything was fine, and I understand that. So we, reassured her. We got the contracts together. We made sure everything was in place and okay. And from there, she signed it, and we were able to take over those 15 units with no money down. Some of them did need work, but it wasn't like a lot of work or extensive work or anything like that. But majority of them were already rented. It was still cash flowing, even if we hadn't done any work to it. So yeah, that one was good. That one was really good. But as far as apartments, Apartments is a whole different story. And I love it because all you have to have is credit. That's all you have to have. And even if you don't have it, it's okay because you can partner with somebody with credit.
Right.
Right.
And the reason I say that is because and tell me, and you all tell me if I'm getting too technical or too into.
No, it's perfect.
No, it's all good. Yeah.
And before you continue, are you buying apartments in Ohio only, or are you now expanding nationwide or certain markets?
Only in Ohio right now. I might start doing other markets, maybe. But right now it's just in Ohio. Until we're actually buying 5 now. So, and they're gonna need some work. So for the next 2 years we'll be here doing
Right.
it.
Gotcha.
But so I'll give you an example. So our 6-unit apartment, I have a partner, my boy GB. He had the credit, I had the knowledge and the know-how, and we just put it together, right? What we did, so it is, what was it? We got it under contract with our realtor at $230,000. 230 or 20? No, $220,000. We got under contract for $220,000. What we did, we went to a lender, a hard money lender, and we told him that, hey, we have this under contract for $320,000. So we were wholesaling it. So basically, Ohio Fast Offer, which is my company, got it under contract with, my realtor and the seller. Ohio Fast Offer then wholesaled it to, we call the company 3403 Street LLC. So they wholesaled it to 3403 Street LLC for $100,000, right? Because we knew the lender was only going to give us $70,000. So if you take 320, I think it was 320. What we did times 0.75, or I think they gave us 70 times 0.70%. No, it was 75%. So 320 times 0.75. Yeah. So they were going to give us $240,000, right? We have it at $220,000 under contract, which means now we're really getting $20,000 to buy that property. But what we had to do, we had to take out broker fees. So that was 5% for broker fees. Had to do some title costs, but look at me, I'm the title guy.
You own the title company.
There you go.
So so we had to do that with the title, a little bit on the title side, right? And that pretty much ate up a good amount of the $20,000, but that was fine because again, we're still coming out of pocket with nothing, and we got $1,000 back. Now I know you're thinking, okay, well, what about when you refinance? How do you get out of it? So with commercial, it's highly valued on how much rent is coming in.
Yep. Right? How much income you're making.
Exactly, that net operating income. The seller was only a 2-bedroom, 1-bath was going for $700, and Section 8 will pay $900. Oh, I'm sorry, they'll pay $1,100 for a 2-bed, 1-bath. So what we did, half of the units were empty. It was a 6-unit. Half of the units were empty. So we filled those with Section 8 at $1,100 a piece. One tenant, she wasn't paying at all. We tried to give her multiple chances, still wasn't paying. We had to let her go. So now we have another one with $1,100. And then another tenant, he was dealing drugs and having prostitutes and everything. We were like, no, that kid, you cannot do it. So he had to go. Boom. So we rent that out at $1,100. After doing that, now it's still depending on the one thing. I know a lot of people in commercial, they get confused, like, oh, it's only on the income. No, it is still based on the condition as well. Like it's just not as heavy as if it was a single family or a duplex or a child or 4. So now with that, us raising the rents, now when it was worth, really, honestly, it was probably worth maybe 250, worth about maybe 250,000 when we first got it. But now, since we did that, did some renovations, did electrical work, did glass block windows, and put new tenants in there at higher rates, now it's worth anywhere between, depending on the cap rate, it's worth anywhere between 480,000 and 520,000.
Wow.
Yeah, so now when we refinance, we're gonna have some equity. If it's worth,
Sure.
let's say worst case, 480,000 times 0.75, because the lender's only gonna give you 75% of what it's worth.
Mhm.
That's 360,000, and we bought it again for 230,000.
Mhm.
Yeah.
$130,000 worth of equity that we could pull out as well. We could cash that out and just
Mhm.
have it as reserves, or we could just pay off the lender and cash flow higher
Mhm.
now,
Mhm.
because we'll be into a 30-year loan. But that's essentially what we're doing to get apartment buildings at $0 down, wholesaling it to ourselves, making sure that there is enough equity in there. And the great thing about apartment buildings, you can make the apartment building worth more only by getting higher rents.
Right.
Mhm. Mhm.
Compared to a
Right.
single family or residential, you have to wait for the market to go up. You can't push that value. The value,
Yeah, you can't force,
No.
you know,
Yeah.
the value there. And not to mention all the tax breaks with desegregation
Yeah.
and all that fun
Yeah.
stuff.
Exactly. So that's what we're doing with the 48 unit. We're purchasing in 2 days. The 81 unit we're purchasing in 2 days, and we're doing it with we have a 50 unit we're purchasing at the end of the month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does
That's
add up
awesome.
over 100 for sure.
Yeah. No,
I think you're all capped
this
at.
is some game right here. Like I people don't understand like what you just dropped right here, because
Yeah.
initially you have two LLCs. One is to get it under contract, right? The
Yep.
other one is wholesaling that deal to your other LLC that
Yep.
you're getting a hard money lender loan, right? For to actually close on that deal, right? So initially nothing's coming out of your pocket for this particular deal, right?
Yep.
On it. So
And you
because
partnered up too with
partnered up, yeah.
partnered
Yep.
up with somebody who has credit or
Yep.
whatever it is, right? Anybody, whatever value add you have for it, you have the knowledge. Hey, you have the credit. Let's bring our forces together. A lot of times people just get stuck, and instead of asking like for help or getting in line with someone, it's really that simple. Now it's not as simple, but
Yeah.
again, if you join the forces together, it really is very simple when you think about it, and if you have the right pieces together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. And even because I know some people think, oh, well, what about W-2s? Aren't they going to ask for that? No, they're not.
No.
Hard money lenders aren't. And I even have a
Mm-mm.
lender, and if anybody wants it, just hit me up or DM me. I have a lender. They will do 100% of the purchase price and 80% of the rehab. Meaning, if you have rehab, right? So for our 48 unit, the rehab really is going to be about 400,000. But what I'm telling them is that it's going to be, hey, the rehab is going to be 600,000. They're only
Right.
going to give me 80% of that 600,000. I'm still good.
Yeah.
Really funded all of my rehab, and they funded
Mhm.
the whole purchase price as well, right? And I'm still able to refinance out because why? I'm raising that value because I'm putting higher rents in there.
Yep.
So
And then also when you refi, you're cashing out a little bit, but that's, correct me if I'm wrong, cash or tax free, right? At
it
that
is
point.
100% tax free.
Yep.
100% tax free.
So that equity you just made is that's dope.
It's just money in your pocket. Or I mean, if
Yeah.
you really wanted to, you can do 1031 eventually, right? And roll
Right.
whatever
Roll
money
over and get more
into.
property.
Exactly. Exactly. Now in Cleveland, that spread is smaller. I say it's smaller, because relatively to most apartment deals, the spread of like 100,000 or 200,000 is smaller compared to
Right.
like going down to Atlanta or something. You're getting
Mhm.
cash out refis like $1 million, or big markets, you're getting $1 million, $2 million, $3 million on a cash out refi, and you're
Right.
still cash flowing. Maybe not as much, but you're still cash flowing each and every month off those apartment buildings or those rental properties. So yeah, it's crazy. It's
That's
crazy.
free game. And I'm assuming you have property managers all set up with them.
For sure. That's another thing that's with it. The reason the seller was selling is because it was poor management. It was really piss poor management.
Tired landlord or terrible managers.
Yeah, terrible managers. It was crazy. I mean, the 48 unit, a studio apartment, was renting out for the same as a 2-bedroom. That just doesn't even make any sense.
Wow.
Right.
So yeah. So all it is management and having the right people, the right team in place. And the stuff that I took from wholesaling and the wholesaling business, I'm still using it in the rental business. I'm still using KPIs. I'm still using SOPs. I'm still using those things with apartments. I'm still using those things in the title business. With the basketball team, I bought a pro basketball team, the Cleveland Vipers. So
okay,
let's go.
Still using it even with them, right? In any and everything that we do, marketing, like that's why I say wholesaling was like my baby, because it literally changed
100%.
who I am for the better.
I love
That's
that. And
awesome.
yeah, like, I think I was going to say something to that effect of you found a process, a system that works, and now it's just rinse and repeat. And it's like, why reinvent the wheel when you have all the supplies
Yep.
to put everything together? It's just maybe a different lane, so to speak, but it's all still the same material to, pave the road, so to speak. So I
Yeah.
love that. I mean, like Tim said, I don't think we just had a mastermind right now. Like that lasts like 47 minutes with the
It's
amount
like-
of knowledge. And so I really appreciate you dropping this. And I know we're just about at the end of it. Kind of want to leave you with this question, like,
Yeah.
what's kind of next for Noah? Like, what do you want to leave the audience with? Yeah, kind of like ending.
I think, I honestly feel like what's next for me is to help as many people as I can. I know a lot of people say that, but I genuinely mean it. Like, I really want to help as many people as I can enjoy life more. And I say that because I was talking to one of my he's an investor, but he's one of my friends. His name's Brandon. He was talking to me about a guy who had 16 kids, foster kids, and he worked day in and day out. So much so that he was not able to be with his kids at all. And he said his number one regret in his life was that he worked too much where he couldn't even enjoy his kids. And, I have a daughter. And that's one of my worst fears. Like, am I working too much? Am I doing too much where I'm not with her? Right. Mm-hmm. Or don't have that time to spend with her. And he, the guy, I do a disservice and don't do it enough justice for the way he told it. But when he came home, he couldn't do anything. He had to came home, sleep, and go right back out. And he missed those years with his kids. Even, him and I, or Brandon and I, were talking to him about some things that we can help him with. But he was like, I mean, I love it, but I've already missed those years with my kids. Mm-hmm. And he just wished that, again, he just had that freedom. But buying these apartment buildings or wholesaling or doing real estate or anything or building, any type of business eventually will allow you that freedom. So that's why I really want to help people, especially people who don't think, oh, buy an apartment, why would I be able to buy an apartment? But I can't do that. Yes, you can. You can do it. Just have the right steps in place, have the right people around you. You can buy an apartment building. And now, if you feel like hanging out with your family that whole month, do it. That whole year, do it. because that's my ultimate goal. I don't want to have to do anything. I just want to get back. If I wake up late that day, oh well. If I feel like not doing anything that day and just spending time with the family, it's cool. That's my ultimate goal. And anybody else that wants to get there, I just really want to help them get there. And any knowledge that I have, just pass it on.
I love that. That's I think that's a really, I don't know, touching sort of goal that I think a lot of people say, but it's like, do they really mean it or back it up? And so I can really sense that, given your background too, of like being there in like tough situations or always kind of lending a hand to others. I think that's the ultimate gift, I think, in giving back. And I think I've mentioned this before, but I was like watching an interview, I think it was Max Maxwell. They were saying like, before you can help others, you need to help yourself. You need to be selfish before you can be unselfish. I think that was the quote. And I think it's so true in kind of the people who are sort of stuck. It all starts with you. You hold the key to whatever goal, whatever it is. People always think like, oh, I have to wait for somebody to bring me up or take me there or that. But it's like, no, it starts with you. It starts with your mindset and where you go. You need to be in the habit or create this habit that you already have it and just go after it. And I think we hold ourselves back so much. And so I love that your ultimate goal is to help others, to help give people the option. If you want to work. But if you don't want to work, you can just follow these steps to set yourself up. So I love that.
Exactly. And I'm the living proof, especially like I said, for the younger generation, which is why I still go back to my elementary school, middle school, and everything and talk to the kids, but letting them know like, hey, I was literally in your shoes. Most of my friends or a good amount of my friends from that time are either dead, in jail, or just stuck in the city, not doing anything. But it's like, seeing somebody like seeing LeBron James on TV, it's like, okay, yes, LeBron James on TV. Like, I can't be LeBron James. Like, that's probably, or, they got family members telling them that, you're never going to be like that. But like coming back and seeing somebody who has done it or can do it, or, you can talk to them, tangibles right there. That's different. It just hits different for those kids. And it'll probably change their life and change their trajectory of what they were even thinking possible. So just by me doing it. So
I love it. Well, Noah, thank you so much again for joining us tonight. Again, you drop bombs. I think whoever is catching this, make sure you catch us on Reply. I mean, it's live, it's on YouTube. Catch the replay, because I may have to look back and take some notes myself.
I know, exactly. We'll be in touch for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. We have your contact information, so we'll have to for sure collab one way or another. But appreciate you so much for joining us tonight.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. God bless.
All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Next Monday, we'll have another amazing guest. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll catch you guys then. Have a good rest of your week.
Peace.